This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Friday and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you. We got a banger for you. John Hodge coming up from 3 Down Nation. We will get his thoughts on the upcoming week in the Canadian Football League, a little NFL, and the Bison homecoming game after that amazing start for U of M, 2-0, coming off their first win at UBC in 11 years. We're also going to welcome in Mike McIntyre, and we'll focus in on the Jets with Mike, but we will also talk about the Goldeyes, who were the big winners last night. We'll touch on that. Reem and I were both at the game. And, of course, NFL Week 2 is upon us. Bills with a big win last night. Very scary concussion for Tua Tagovailoa. We'll talk to Lee Hacksaw Hamilton a little later on about that and much more surrounding the NFL heading into Week 2. And, of course, it's Friday. You know what that means. Marble race after Hacksaw. So be sure to stick around at the end of the program live on YouTube for your chance to win. Big thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen every day. New CFL 110 is up. That is brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg. Check it out when you have a chance over at the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube channel or on the podcast. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Rolly's Transfer, Consolidated Supply and Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend, and of course we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Lots of fish in the chat right off the bat. What a night last night at the ballpark as the Goldeyes are on their way to the American Association Championship Series. Michael Remis, we were both there last night. Great, just an awesome playoff game. That to me is what playoff baseball is all about. Every single pitch, every hitter, so important. And it came down to every out, mattering as well, as the Goldeyes get an unbelievable 11K performance from their starter, close the door, win 2-1, and move on to a championship series. Oh, okay. We've got a mute issue, just like the good old days.
Not a mute issue, but I was screwing around with some USBs, with my USBs, putting in some new ones on the weekend, and I didn't redo my microphone. Anyways, I was saying, Huss, so intense being there at the game, way more than watching on the stream. And people are saying, hey, how can we follow the game? aabaseball.tv. You'll be able to watch this weekend's games, and Tuesday is Game 1 here against Kane County Cougars. But what a performance yesterday by the starter, Mitchell Lamson. 6 2/3, 1 earned run, 5 hits, and 11 Ks. The 11 strikeouts, they almost ran out of room on the scoreboard, Huss, putting all those up. And, you know, they had chances to take a bigger lead. It was 2-1 for a while. Max Murphy was up with some runners in scoring position, wasn't able to cash them in. They did get the big bottom of the 8th home run, give him a little breathing room. Jake McMurray over the fence. And then it was the Winnipegger, Ben Onishko. Man, they had 2 guys on. I mean, the go-ahead run was at the plate, but he shut the door. Big celebration, champagne party. Bring out the West champion T-shirts. Those are ready to go, and they're off to the final. Leaving pretty early this morning to go to go to Kane County.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I think they kind of went out to have a little fun after the game. As you know, I mean, this is either going to be you're going to the championship series with the day off the next day, or that was going to be a wrap for the season. So I think the fellas went out a little bit downtown afterwards, but it was hilarious. We were sitting there in Section G last night watching the game, and there was a guy and his wife in Goldeyes gear in front of us, and kind of whatever. We just got chatting. Turns out he's the bus driver. So he was sitting there at the game wondering whether that was it or whether he was going to be driving to Chicago today. And then I found out they were leaving at 3:45 a.m. So hopefully the fellas got a chance to have a little champagne, have a good time, and then a nice long sleep on the way to Chicago. This series is going to get going on the weekend for games 1 and 2. And then, Reem, I think Blue Cross Park is going to be the place to be in Winnipeg next week. Tuesday, game 3, if necessary, Wednesday, game 4, and a possible deciding game 5 on Thursday as the team comes back. And, for Logan Watkins' squad, they've got to get a split. I mean, if they can get a split down in Chicagoland against Kane County, they come back with the opportunity to win 2 of 3 at home like they've done in these last 2 series and become champions for the first time since 2017.
Yeah, 2017, 7 years ago, Hustlers. Feels like more recent than that, but that's pretty close to 10 years, which is a while. And the Goldeyes had a miserable season last year. They were in last place. They do go with another managerial change, and they hadn't had really any in their entire existence. And Logan Watkins comes in, wins Manager of the Year, brings in a very quality group of players led by this pitching staff, and there they are off to the final now for the Miles Wolf Cup. I do have the final call here, Huss, from Trevor Curl.
Oh, let's fire it up. Trevor's been on the show this week. Let's give him some love for a big one last night.
Here's how it sounded on AABaseball.tv and CJNU here.
And Nishko is swung on and hit in the center field. Miles Symington is camped. He is there to make the catch. And the Goldeyes are going back to the Miles Wolf Cup Championship Series for the first time since 2017. The Goldeyes stand alone in the West. It's off to Kane County for Game 1 as the Goldeyes are dogpiling on the pitcher's mound.
What a scene last night down at the ballpark. And you mentioned Ben Anishko. The local guy goes out with the opportunity to shut the door. And, he doesn't normally act in a closer's role, but everybody pitched yesterday. I mean, they had 6 or 7 pitching changes in the in game number 2. So I guess they felt that Ben was in the best spot to go get it done. I mean, he's a lefty. He throws some smoke. But they did get those 2 runners on. I mean, you had the tying run at second, the go-ahead run at first with 1 out, and then ended up shutting them down. And Remo, we were kind of paying attention to his ERA all season long. He gave up a run or 2 late in the season for his ERA to balloon all the way to 1.03 after being in and around 0.5 or 0.6 most of the season. And a guy that they've used in so many different situations, put in the most high leverage situation of the entire season and got the job done.
Yeah, again, it was pretty tight there against Fargo at the end. 2 guys on, but you get the last batter to fly out. And my favorite part of the baseball playoffs is you can never have too many champagne parties. I thankfully had a front row seat for this one, Huss. It was great watching them shake up the bottles and spray them into the air. They had a big team picture after. These guys so pumped up. It's such a long season to make it all the way to the final, where they've been playing 3-game series. It's going to be a 5-game series now. It's going to be awesome. So, yeah, Tuesday, Game 3, the first home game for the Goldeyes of the Miles Wolf Cup final, the American Association Championship Series. Exciting stuff here.
Get your tickets now, folks. Goldeyes.com. Book them in. We'll see you at the ballpark for a championship game number 3 and potentially game 4 and 5 next week at the park. You mentioned people. There's going to be a lot of streaming done this weekend, Reem.
Yes.
People can, of course, check out all the Winnipeg Sports Talk content that they may have missed. They're the fellas after a couple bottles have been popped and celebrating in front of the home fans. But we'll be streaming the Goldeyes Championship Series. And, of course, we're also going to be able to check out the Winnipeg Jets at the Young Stars tournament, which begins tonight in Penticton. And the Jets dropping the puck, I believe, 6 o'clock local time for their first game.
Yeah, a lot of streaming. People are saying, where can I watch the Goldeyes? Where can I watch the Jets? Well, the Goldeyes, aabaseball.tv, also on the app. The Winnipeg Goldeyes app has a direct link on the front page to that. And WinnipegJets.com will be your home to watch the Young Stars. They're kicking that off tonight, 6 p.m. local time, as you said, against Calgary. Sunday, 4 p.m. against Vancouver. And Monday, 1 p.m. We'll be here live, but there will be Young Stars playing also at 1 p.m. versus Edmonton. So I don't know if you want to get a computer and AirPlay or Cast or type the URL in on whatever on your TV. There's multiple ways, but a lot of streaming. And of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk content here on YouTube. Live shows every week. The Cole Perfetti deep dive posted by Connor and Liz. So a lot of stuff for sure to be streamed here this weekend.
Yeah, well, listen, it's going to be a fun weekend, and then this is kind of the last weekend before things really get going in earnest. Next Saturday, Fan Fest. We will be there. If you're coming by, pop by and say hi. And then, of course, later on that night, the first exhibition game of the season for the Winnipeg Jets. Remo, you must have been fired up. Not only do we have line combos for the Young Stars tournament, but we even have some power play units.
Oh, man. Yes, just around the corner. I've been jealous. I've seen other teams getting like their practice pairings tweeted out, but Jamie Thomas is in Penticton with the team. Saw him post a nice video of the guys getting off the bus, and Mitch Clinton started out the morning, 11:02 a.m. I was ready. He's got power play units. Go to Mitch. Power play 1, Salamonson, Levis, Chibrikov, Lambert, Yeager. Power play 2, Anhorn, Bartow, Zhilkin, Barlow, Julian. And we do have lines. Here it is. Lambert, Barlow, line 1. Walton, Zhilkin, Torgerson, 2. Julian, Yeager, Chibrikov, 3. Lopinen, Nikkanen, Levis, 4. Anhorn, Salamonson, Kuzman, Bartow, Sward, and Mayo, with Thomas Milic starting in goal. Awesome. We'll see what it looks like tonight against Calgary. Calgary right tonight. And I know the Jets haven't had a ton of success in the past, but hey, we just want to see guys on the ice, check out some individual skill. Maybe we'll get a highlight reel play that we could post on our X feed and get a lot of retweets. That's what I'm hoping for tonight. Maybe Brad Lambert takes it end to end, scores, and we can post it and get a lot of social media engagement. That's what it's really about for us here.
Yeah, it's just engagement, content, and listen, there's a lot more of it now that the Winnipeg Jets are back. One of the guys that I think we're going to be paying very close attention to over the course of the weekend, especially next week at training camp, is Elias Salmonson. He will be on the right side of the top pairing tonight. As Remis just mentioned, will be involved in the power play, but certainly has higher aspirations than just the prospects tournament, coming in and trying to make the club in his first year over here in North America. Elias Salmonson, of course, won the Swedish Elite League Championship last year and is now looking to move to North America. He talked about his summer earlier this week as he got ready for the trip to Penticton with the other Jets prospects.
Spent time back home in Sweden, in Skellefteå, my hometown. Been practicing with some NHL guys from there, so and then I've been rested, been on vacation and stuff, so it's been a great summer.
Yeah, but is there anything in particular you did vacation-wise that really stood out?
No, just sitting in the sun chair.
Yeah. What about, just the approach mentally in addition to physically, because this is a different set of circumstances for you. You've usually been going back to Sweden to play pro, but now, the North American aspect is going to kick in.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm mentally prepare myself, and I feel ready to start my career here in North America.
If I can just ask one more question. We've had a debate, because I've heard your name pronounced Salmonson.
Yeah.
I've heard it pronounced Salamonson and Salamonson. What is the like, if you're talking to people, how do you say your name, please, sir?
Salamonson.
All right, Salamonson, we got some clarity. Appreciate Kelly Moore getting that out to make guys like us not sound like dummies when we pronounce his name differently every few days. There's Elias on his summer, the challenge ahead moving forward. And this is another interesting clip. Elias was asked if he'd heard Kevin Cheveldayoff's comments this summer about the opportunities ahead for young players.
Yeah, I heard it, and actually it's just up to me to show them that I can play there. Just do my best. Yeah.
Do you think you can crack the Jets lineup? Depending on how you do in camp and preseason.
Yeah, I feel confident, so I'm just gonna do the best as I can, and like I said, it's up to me.
How much did those 2 years in Sweden prepare you for this, as well as the limited amount of time you got in the preseason last year over here?
Yeah, of course, it's went far in the playoff there and winning. So yeah, I learned a lot, and I think I'm ready to come over now.
All right, there's Elias. Looking forward to seeing what he does over the course of the weekend and next week at training camp. Of course, Mark Morrison be heavily involved this weekend. Many of the players that will be suiting up for the Jets at the Prospects Tournament will be Manitoba Moose. Mark Morrison talked about his excitement for this rookie camp, as well as looking ahead to another season with the Herd.
Yeah, I mean, I think even not just going to Penticton, but even today in the first practice, the whole staff is kind of interested to see what everybody looks like. And I know it's early days and it's their first skate in a long time, but we were all paying attention and interested in to see the players that we haven't seen.
You spend some time with these guys at development camp as well. That's a little bit of a different setting. Do they get to see Mark Morrison, the coach, a little more in something like this than they did back in early July? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that was more about them just meeting each other and learning the city and the staff and so on. This is a little bit more about them getting prepared to go to a tournament and win. So, we ran over some D-zone coverage, and so there's a little bit of thinking going on, and there's a lot of different things coming at these kids right now as far as staff goes and systems go, and they want to impress and they want to do well. So we're trying to slow them down a little bit and just make sure the execution is there, because they're all so antsy to get going.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. 6 o'clock puck drop tonight for game number 1 for the Jet Prospects. It doesn't look like we'll be seeing Chaz Lucius. He started off camp in a non-contact jersey. Mark Morrison discussed Chaz's status heading into the weekend and, of course, next week's camp.
He hasn't had a chance to get in any contact over the summer, so it's just being very careful and very sure of him coming back at the right time.
Does that mean he's likely not going to play this weekend?
Yeah, that would mean he's not going to play this weekend. We're slowly trying to fit him back into contact practice.
Such a tough situation for the young man, Remis. You want to be out there competing and showing what you can do, but when you had such a brutal few years with luck when it comes to injuries, I sort of understand the organization trying to put him in the best situation to stay healthy. But at some point, you got to get out there, and it seems like they are just handling this with extreme caution, considering what's happened the last few seasons.
Yeah, Chad, he's still only 21 years old, so plenty of runway ahead of him. And when he's been healthy, he's performed, kind of struggled with the Moose in 2022, 23, was hurt. But when he was in Portland, 15 points in 6 games in 22, 23, and then he got hurt. Shocker. And last year, he was off to a solid start with the Moose, 13 points in 17 games, but then hurt. And here he is recovering from another surgery. And there's still, prospects analysts that are high on him, the organization still with him, but it's tough when you're consistently hurt and not in the lineup. But there's certainly some potential there, listed at 6'1", 185 on Hockey DB, Chaz Lucius.
Yeah, well, you know what they always say, you can't make the club from the tub. So at some point, we're going to need to see him get out there. But I just hope that he can suit up for the Moose, have a strong season, and, get back into the mix when it comes to, the Jets' top young prospects and first-rounders potentially being, in the future for the big club. But one guy that is knocking on the door to the big club is Brad Lambert. He played for Mark Morrison last year. Here's the Moose coach on his thoughts on how close Brad Lambert is to making the jump to the National Hockey League.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I've got my opinion on it, but I don't want to throw it out there. I think that'll happen with Arnie and Chevy and the group there. That'll be up to them to make those decisions. But Brad's come a long ways.
Well, Brad said that consistency, getting a little stronger, and winning puck battles were a couple of his goals to try to prepare himself to make the jump and stay there. What are some of the specifics that you would like to see from him in that quest?
Well, I think that his answer to you is probably correct. Like to win puck battles and get stronger and stuff like that. I think that was part of his exit interview, and I think he worked on that for the summer. His strength and winning puck battles. So I mean, we'll see what he shows up like at camp.
How often have you seen a first-round pick go to 3 rookie challenges like what Brad's doing?
Yeah. Thinking back, probably none. I mean, Brad. There's a lot of leadership that a lot of growth from him in the leadership department for sure. He feels like it's important for him, and it is. And I have a lot of respect for the decision that he made to come back here.
All right, so there is Mark Morrison. And one more from the Moose coach. Just talked about, the first impressions of Braden Yeager, the skill he brings to the organization, and looking ahead to getting all of these young players a chance to show what they can do over the course of the next few days in Penticton.
Yeah, it looks like he has good hands, and I thought he ripped the puck a couple times as well, like a real good shot. Gets it off quick, move, and he looks smart, like he's a smart player, and uses his line mates pretty well. I saw out there, so yeah, it's early days, but it was good.
16 forwards and 70. So you try and work everyone in at least for one game this weekend with the 3?
Yeah, we will for sure. I mean, we're not going to take anybody and not take people and not play them. So we'll find a way to get them all involved. And usually, it usually works itself out a little bit after that first game. Whether you get some soreness or it's early season stuff. There's already some guys with some groins that are sore. So, it works itself out, and we'll make sure everyone gets a game in.
All right, 6 o'clock tonight, Winnipeg time, WinnipegJets.com if you want to watch it. The opening of the Young Stars tournament with the Jets taking on the Flames prospects today. We're going to talk some football coming up with John Hodge. We will have a little bit more from the Jets, including Captain Adam Lowry and Kyle Connor a little later on, and Mike McIntyre is going to join us after we get into a little bit of football talk with John Hodge. Do not forget, CFL 110 is up right now. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. We had a great conversation with Jeff Hamilton on everything happening around the Canadian Football League. It, of course, is brought to you by our friends at Garage Living Winnipeg. And the push is on right now. If you're looking to have a clean, organized garage this fall before the snow flies, give Garage Living Winnipeg a call at 999-1234. And has been busy. As soon as back to school hit, people are seeing all the kids' bikes, hockey equipment, football equipment, you name it, strewn all over the garage. But Garage Living has an innovative solution called Slatwall, and there are dozens of hooks, baskets, and shelves that clip into it to get everything off your floor. There's even a cool golf club caddy and tire racks to store those winter tires. And you can do as much of it or as little of it as you want to fit within your budget. Don't miss your chance to clear the clutter, organize and beautify your garage with Slatwall. Garage Living also offers polyaspartic floor coatings, made in Canada premium metal cabinetry for a total garage makeover. Check out their website and all their amazing work at garageliving.com, or give Pat Canuga a call at 204-999-1234 to book a free in-garage consultation or make an appointment to meet them in their showroom at 981 Main Street, Garage Living Winnipeg. Garage is made for living. If you have a move coming up take as much of the stress out of it as possible and get the white glove treatment by Rollies. And the fellas at Rollies have been doing it for over 60 years. Family owned and operated, is the most trusted name in moving. So don't trust just anyone to get all of your prized possessions and your life to your next spot. Make it Rollies. Now, if you check out their website at rollies.com, up in the top right corner, you'll see the request an estimate feature. Click on that. First of all, put in the promo code WST. Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners will receive a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Let them know when and where you're moving, what you're moving, and they'll turn it around quickly with a very competitive estimate to give you and your family the white glove treatment on your next move. Make it Rollies. Find out more online or request an estimate today at rollies.com. A shout out to our friends at Consolidated Supply. What a summer they've had. It started off pretty wet, and they were busy because, of course, they are the leaders in irrigation systems and solutions, not to mention artificial turf and golf carts, supplying the entire golf industry in the province, but have other great options for your property like hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchen options. And, of course, they're the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Pop by and see them at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. And just as we bring in John Hodge, shout out to the gang over at Manitoba Battery. What a summer they have had, powering camping trips, boating excursions, ATV rides, and more. Whatever your needs are when it comes to batteries, Manitoba Battery has you covered. 2 locations, Logan Avenue in their new store at 452 Dover Court. And not only does Manitoba Battery have batteries for everything, but they allow you to shop local, get the best price in town, beating the pants off the big box stores, and will deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the city of Winnipeg with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Pop by and see them in store, give them a call, or order today at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's talk a little football. There's lots to get to. John Hodge of 3 Down Nation joins us now. John, what's up? How have you been enjoying the bye week?
I've been enjoying it, Huss. I'm off to the Bisons game tomorrow. That's going to be great. They're hosting the surprise 2-0 Regina Rams. That's a couple weeks away. They're hosting the Alberta Golden Bears tomorrow. Surprise 1-1. Alberta Golden Bears. So not a great start for the Golden Bears. Great start for the Bisons at 2-0. So I'm excited for that.
You know what? Listen, I'm glad you brought that up right off the bat because I did not want to overlook the great start. And this is such a special year for Bison football, knowing that it's the final year of the incredible career of Coach Dobie. It could not have started off any better. I mean, 2-0 right now, including a win at UBC, one of the top-ranked teams in the nation, who's had a tough start of their own, but they hadn't won there in 11 years, John. We know how short the Canada West season is. This is a heck of a way to start things off for Brian Dobie's last ride.
Yeah, I got a chance to talk to Brian Dobie a couple of weeks ago before the season started, and he was optimistic about his team, but, I mean, Canada West is a dogfight. It always is, right? I also got the chance to I ran into Michael O'Shea Jr., of course, Mike O'Shea's son, who plays for the Bisons, receiver, returner. And, they beat the Huskies at home. They hadn't beaten Saskatchewan, I think, in 5 or 6 years. And then they go to Vancouver and, as you mentioned, Huss, beat UBC on the road first time in 11 years. I know coming into the season, Alberta was considered a bit of a sleeper team in Canada West, arguably the team to beat. So if you've already beaten Sask and you've already beaten UBC, if you could beat Alberta here, you're setting yourself up extremely well. And I'm really excited. The reason the Rams are top of mind is on the 28th, I'm getting the opportunity to call that game on radio, which is very exciting.
Into the booth, right on.
I'm into the booth. There you go. I've always been told I have a face for radio. Now I can fully use my skill set to my advantage, Huss. So I'm thrilled to get the opportunity to call a game. And especially because you mentioned it, it is a historic season with Brian Dobie leaving that organization at the end of this year to retire. He is still unbelievably high energy for a guy. You never know that he was in his early 70s. Clearly he's got that veteran crew cooking because that team has played very well to start the season.
Well, people are looking for something to do. Get down to the homecoming game tomorrow. It features the top two teams ranking-wise in Canada West, the only two teams that are ranked right now. And, the Bisons snuck into the top 10 with that first win, and then I think really opened eyes last week and are now sitting at sixth in the nation. It's been a while since we've seen the Bisons and the top 10 are flirting with the top 5, John.
Yeah, they were on the top 10, I think, for 1 week last year. I think 1 week the year before. Like, they've kind of been in that, 15 to 10 zone, like a very middling team, across the country. And Canada West has been all, UBC. They were in the Vanier Cup last year. Saskatchewan made a couple of Vanier Cups right before that. Manitoba could easily be that team this year. You mentioned they're now 6. They're flirting with the top 5. If they beat Alberta, Laval's not going anywhere. Montreal's not going anywhere. Western's not going anywhere. But, Laurier at 4, that's a team Manitoba could absolutely catch when you look at that top 5. So I think that the Manitoba Bisons can win the Can West this year. And if they make it into the national semifinals, they could make some noise here for sure.
All right, so the homecoming game tomorrow, if you're looking for a great football game, get on down to Princess Auto Stadium for that. Quiet for the Bombers this week on the field because, of course, they've had the bye week, but a lot of talk about where this team goes moving forward with the injury to Chris Streveler. John, just what are your thoughts on the Bombers quarterback position, the two guys that they signed, and whether Kyle Walters is done trying to fill not only Chris Streveler's spot on the roster, but potentially shore up the number 2 QB in the event that Zach Collaros might not be able to play at some point?
Well, let's start with the two guys they've brought in or are bringing in. It's Jake Dolegala and Brian Scott. Jake Dolegala's got the experience edge. He started 10 CFL games. Unfortunately, he's 2-8 in those 10 starts. He's a true pocket guy, right? For a guy who's 6'7", 230 pounds, he moves very well. But he's not a Chris Streveler type, right? Who is going to run through or around you on a regular basis. Brian Scott would be the better Chris Streveler comp, but he just doesn't have a lot of experience. He's got 0 CFL starts, has had cups of coffee in different leagues, had a lot of success for a while in the USFL, but he was with the Toronto Argonauts for the first half of this season, and in a quarterback room that included Nick Arbuckle and Cameron Dukes, he didn't really push to the point of getting any playing time. Like, he threw 5 pass attempts through 9 games with them, which isn't a whole heck of a lot. And no disrespect to Nick Arbuckle or Cameron Dukes, but those guys are hardly world beaters. So I think if you're Winnipeg, if you're looking for a Chris Streveler type, Brian Scott's probably the better fit. If you're looking for somebody with experience, you're probably looking for Jake Dolegala. Outside of that, Huss, I don't think there's a big trade market here, right? Like, if Vernon Adams Jr. is not getting traded to Winnipeg, right? BC's already on the record saying they're not trading him, period, this season. And if they were to trade him, they're certainly not shipping him to the Blue Bombers, where Vernon Adams Jr. could hurt the BC Lions later on this year. When you look at, Jeremiah Masoli in Ottawa, who's a very good quarterback who's not starting right now, if Zach Collaros went down, maybe the Bombers try to make a move. Personally, I'd be surprised if the Red Blacks shipped him out. They're going to be a playoff team this year. They're probably going to host a playoff game. They're going to need Jeremiah if anything happens to Drew Brown. So I don't think the trade market is super substantial looking across the board.
What about Bo?
Well, fair enough. I think Bo Levi Mitchell, he's under contract for another year with the Ticats. That being said, he's already been benched once. Taylor Powell is under contract at a sweetheart rate for next year. It's possible, right? But again, if you're the Bombers, I don't think you're pressing the panic button with Zach Collaros healthy in the number 1 job right now. I think you're looking and you're saying, hey, we've got our starter. We're probably in big trouble if he goes down long term, but that arguably would have been true anyways, right? Credit to Chris Streveler for coming in and winning that Ottawa game earlier this year. I remember talking to him after that game. He was unbelievably battered and bruised. He took so many shots in that game. I think him taking those hits was great for a one-off. I don't think you could have sustained success running the football like he did in that game with the game plan that the Bombers had that game. So if something were to happen to Zach, I'm sure a call gets made for Bo Levi Mitchell. Maybe the Ticats are even interested. They're not going to the playoffs, barring a late season miracle here. But short of that, I don't see any reason for the Bombers to panic.
Well, to me, it's just like the Bombers they just don't have the depth at that position. I mean, if Nathan Rourke gets hurt, BC's fine. Edmonton, 2 really solid quarterbacks. I have a hard time imagining the Winnipeg Blue Bombers beating either of those teams come playoff time if Zach Collaros gets hurt. He's been knocked out of 2 games this year. He's missed a start right now, John. And I mean, to me, like, do they not almost have to have a better backup plan if Zach goes down? Because, I mean, the way I read it right now, this great run that this team is on and all the work that they've done to pull them out of that brutal start to get back on top of the West could go up in flames if Zach Collaros isn't able to go. And I mean, I think they've just put so much in. From my perspective, they got to find a guy. And like, I'm not worried about the short yardage. I mean, whatever. Someone else can do that. Give Brady a few more touches. I'm sure he'd love that.
Yeah.
But once you get on the other side of October and into the postseason, I don't know, from where I sit, they have to have a better option after Zach Collaros if he's not able to go. And I mean, to me, Bo Levi Mitchell's intriguing because he's actually been productive at times, although he's thrown a few too many picks. But at least he would be a guy that you'd, I think, have some confidence that you could win a football game against a quality opponent in playoff time if he was the guy that they went to. And I'm not sure they have that guy on the roster right now, even with the 2 signings.
Well, productive at times and thrown too many picks is also a good description for Zach Collaros this year,
about to
right?
say.
I mean, Bo's numbers are a lot better than Zach's. Now, Zach has won a lot more games, right? He's also on a better team with a better defense and those things. But I get what you're saying. I don't think that going into the playoffs, which I do believe this team will be headed into the playoffs. It remains to be seen which seed that'll be. I think they got an uphill battle to finish first. I mean, they're currently in first, but has 4 of BC's remaining games are at home. Winnipeg's only got 2 left on the docket. And when you look at the teams that these clubs have to face, I think BC's schedule is a little bit lighter. But yeah, I mean, you probably want something better, right, than a Jake Dolegala in the number 2 spot. It just depends on the price, right? And what about Calgary? Right? Are they willing to part ways with Jake Mayer potentially? I mean, he's a pending free agent. He makes big money, but almost all of that money will have been paid out by the early portion of October. And he's certainly been more productive in his career than Jake Dolegala, as much as, you know, he hasn't been a world beater as of late, even got benched last week in favor of Logan Bonner, who made his first career start. So there could be options available to Winnipeg. I think it depends, though, on which teams are officially eliminated. Because if Hamilton's still in the thick of it, there's no way they're trading Bo Levi Mitchell, right, come the middle of next month. If they're out of it, maybe that's a different story.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think basically we'll find out as to, you know, the plight of Hamilton, whether they're playing meaningful games in these next 2 weeks. They got to win this week, and they got to beat Toronto next week if they want to have a chance really to, you know, to be in that mix. They're at 3-9 right now. You'd think they probably need to go, based on where the standings are right now in the East, 5-1 in their final 6. So if the losses come early or not, maybe that is a possibility that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers can look into. You know, I had to laugh. Hammer and I were talking about this on CFL 110 this week, and I really enjoyed your article in 3 Down Nation about the MOP race. This is the weirdest. It's been a weird season in a lot of ways. It's been a great season. I mean, so many teams are in it. The games have been great. But, John, I can never remember a situation where it's really difficult to make a compelling argument for literally anybody in the league that they're ahead of the rest of the pack when it comes to the MOP this year.
Yeah, at the halfway point of this season, I think it was okay. VA is the guy out of the West. And out of the East, it's either Cody Fajardo or Tyson Philpott, his top receiver. It's one of the two. All 3 of those players have now missed too much time. Like Tyson Philpott's out for the year. He's not going to be the MOP. Vernon Adams Jr. is going to miss a 6th straight start. He's not the MOP. Cody Fajardo missed 4 starts, and his numbers are down the last little while. Maybe he's the MOP. He's the top quarterback of the league's best team, right? That usually is a pretty good case for MOP. But then you look at across the board. Well, could Brady Oliveira be the MOP? He's had a nice season, but no touchdowns. That doesn't feel very MOP-like. William Stanback's the league's leading rusher, but I don't think anybody looks at William Stanback and goes, whoa, that guy is – I mean, he's a very good player, don't get me wrong, but I don't think anybody's looking at William Stanback going, well, that's the best player in the CFL, holy smokes. Receiver-wise, Justin McInnis is number one. Well, Justin McInnis has been very quiet for the past 6 weeks. He had a great start to the year, that he's gone quiet. Does a defensive player win it? Maybe, but nobody's got more than 6 sacks right now. How do you give MOP to a guy with 6 sacks? Could it be a DB? It's never been a DB. Tyrell Ford, could he be the MOP? Roland Milligan Jr., another standout DB for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Could he be the MOP? I don't know. Because usually this time of year, Huss, you're right. We're down to, some years it's decided. It's like, wow, okay. I know there's a third of the season left, but this guy is obviously the MOP. Most years you're down to 4 or 5 guys at this point. Right now, if it weren't for injuries, I think it'd be decided. But with the way the injuries have impacted some key players at some key times, I don't think you can realistically say there's fewer than 25 players in the MOP race still. And hopefully, for the sake of voters who need to keep their sanity in line for these next portion of the season, hopefully somebody separates themselves for the next 6 weeks, because otherwise this is going to be a really, really tough ballot to cast.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I mean, I think that if I had to cast a ballot right now, I think I give it to Fajardo, but it's less because of the incredible season that Cody's had, more about the team and the lack of anybody else around. Let me ask you this. Who's the Blue Bombers at MOP right now? I mean, when you just look at this Winnipeg Blue Bomber team with where they're at now at 7-6 with 5 games left, who even are the guys in the mix right now that you think have been the most important to the Bombers' success this season?
Most important to the success, if you're talking a value perspective, you have to keep Zach Collaros on the ballot. If you're talking true outstanding, right, who's had the best year, I think Brady's up there. I think Nick Dembski's kind of a quiet option. I think that Willie Jefferson's a quiet option. But to me, the number one guy would be Tyrell Ford. And I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I think you throw Sergio Castillo into the mix. It's not unprecedented for a kicker to be the MOP at the team level. I go for Ford because I think he's seen a ton of targets in that secondary, and as a young guy has absolutely risen to the occasion. 6 picks. I don't think Winnipeg wins the Banjo Bowl if he doesn't get those 2 picks on Trevor Harris. I talked to Tyrell after the game, and he said, and the quote's in my article if you want to read it verbatim, but he essentially said, I like when I'm the game plan because then I can decide if we win or lose, and I win a lot. Like, this young man from Niagara Falls is feeling himself. He is coming into his own as a CFL starter. And I think, honestly, if the season ended today, he could easily be the league's most outstanding Canadian, as well as potentially most outstanding player. So that would be my short list for MOP. I think I would give it to Ford, personally.
Let's put this out to the peeps for the Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Who's your pick for the Bombers MOP? Remis has a poll up in the chat right now. Tyrell Ford, Sergio Castillo, Willie Jefferson, or other. I certainly would put Brady Oliveira in the mix, but it's funny how much love Sergio's getting right now, and for good reason. He's an incredibly popular player. I'm with you, Rob Pepper. He should have won the MVP of that Grey Cup.
Yes, he should have.
He's already broken a CFL record for kicks, for field goals over 50 yards. And they've been huge. You look at the last 2 games. If Sergio Castillo isn't perfect, the Bombers probably don't win both, and potentially not either of the games. Did you see him blast that 71-yarder on the bye week the other day?
I did. It's unbelievable. And here's a stat for you. And I'm 99% sure this is accurate. Don't have it in front of me. But in CFL history, there have been 4 kicks of 60 yards or more made in the entire history of the league since 1958. Of those 4 kicks, 2 were made by Sergio Castillo this year, which is a crazy statistic to think of when you consider that this is a kicking league, right? The CFL teams, or CFL is a league where special teams matters a whole lot more than in 4-down football. And what Sergio has been able to do this season is pretty remarkable. That's for sure.
If you're with us on YouTube, Remis just played that clip of the 71-yarder in practice with Sergio kicking it, I believe, down in his native state of Texas. The the Bombers' special teams, we haven't had any dynamic returns like we used to be getting all the time with regularity from Janarian and Grant. But I will say this, John. The Bombers' 5-game winning streak and getting them back into where they are right now, the Bombers' special teams have been a sneaky part of the this run that they're on right now, and I thought a huge part of both of those wins against the Riders.
Well, I mean, they got a special teams touchdown, right, in the first game from Nick Hallett hopping on the ball that Mario Alford wasn't able to corral. Jamison Sheehan, I think, is playing the best football that he has since joining Winnipeg as their punter a couple of years ago. And the cover units have been sensational, right? Michael Ayers, I think, has been a bit of an unsung hero for this team as a rookie linebacker, making plays, flying down the field on special teams. Tony Jones has been excellent, right? He was the one who had that unbelievable forced fumble against the Hamilton Tiger Cats at Princess Auto Stadium. I felt terrible for that rookie returner for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. His first career game, he comes across the field and he gets absolutely annihilated. I think his last name is Bird. I can't remember his first name off the top of my head. But regardless, the cover units have been excellent. They were struggling a little bit at the start of the year. They've since been excellent. Sergio Castillo obviously has had a very good year kicking the football. Jamison Sheehan there. You're right. The return game has not been obviously anywhere close to what it's been, but I do think that it has improved since Lucky Whitehead went back there, and he's been very timely, right? He had a nice return at the end of that Ticats game. He also had a nice return near the end of the Banjo Bowl where he was able to step up. So you'd love to see, of course, the Janarian Grant style, 90 and 100-yard kick returns. Certainly in the playoffs, right? Janarian Grant had a tremendous amount of success helping get the Blue Bombers to the Grey Cup in 2022, but those aren't happening. But outside of that, Winnipeg special teams groups have been close to beyond reproach.
And listen, and speaking of punt returns, I mean, he had that huge one in the Labor Day game as well. I mean, which really put them into a position, even though they weren't moving the football very well, to bring Sergio out there. And obviously in a 2-point game, every one of those count. John Hodge is with us. Looking ahead to this back-to-back against the Edmonton Elks. This is, a big test for Winnipeg. And you would have maybe loved to have had those games in the first couple months of the season when the team was floundering. But you can make an argument that the Elks are playing right up there with the best in the Canadian Football League right now as their Grey Cup odds just get chipped away week after week after week. What do you make of the challenge for the Bombers going up against Edmonton for 2 weeks back-to-back?
Honestly, this Edmonton team reminds me a ton of the 2016 Blue Bombers. Like, really slow start to the season, and the offensive line in Edmonton has been unbelievable. Obviously, Trey Ford, everybody knows Trey Ford has been a great addition to that team when he's been in the starting lineup. His tools as a runner are pretty unmatched. But that offensive line, that was very mediocre for the start of the season. And that offensive line, by the way, is a patchwork unit. Like, they've got Brett Boyko, who is from Saskatoon and the Riders didn't want anymore, at right tackle. Right guard is Shane Richards, former first overall pick. The Argonauts tried to trade him all last season. Nobody wanted him. At left guard, they've got David Foucault, a Montreal native who speaks French. The Alouettes didn't want him anymore. He's been in Edmonton for a while now. Like, this unit is a bit of an island of misfit toys. And yet Steven Sorrells, who people might remember was the O-line coach in Saskatchewan in 2022, and Cody Fajardo got sacked, I think it was 850,000 times, and got absolutely run out of town. He has that unit playing brilliantly. That offensive line has been the best in the CFL, and Javon Leake and Kevin Brown and Justin Rankin and Trey Ford, like, all those guys are taking advantage of it. It's opened up things in the passing game. Curly Gittins Jr. underneath, Eugene Lewis, Dylan Mitchell over the top. They've got two quarterbacks who can play, and then defensively, they're one of very few teams that can get pressure with four, right? Noah Curtis has had a very good second year for them, Canadian player. Sean Oakman has completely changed that defense since he came over following his release from the Toronto Argonauts. You have Niles Morgan and Nick Anderson in the linebacking core, just soaking everything up that gets through that defensive line. And on the back end, I don't think the secondary is great, Huss, but they've got a lot of athletes. And when you're getting pressure up front, then it becomes easy to stand back there and pick off a bunch of passes. So with the way they're running the ball on offense and with the way they're generating takeaways, now leading the CFL in takeaways, they remind me a lot of the 2016 Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I think that's going to get Edmonton into the playoffs this year. You're absolutely right. This is a tough home and home for Winnipeg. I think if you're the Bombers, you're happy to split it, but obviously they'll be trying to get the sweep.
John, what do you think about this Argos BC game tonight? BC looking really good in the last couple of weeks after getting over that early kind of bump with Nathan Rourke. And Chad Kelly, I mean, he's come back, but he certainly hasn't looked like the guy that, led that team to 16-2, and I don't think their team is as well. You're looking for a big one from BC tonight?
Yeah, I think the Lions win this one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. The Lions have reconfigured their offensive line again. I think they probably look better than they did last week. Toronto's defensive line coming into the season, I thought was the best in the CFL. They've been good, but they've certainly not been to the level I thought they would be. They really miss Winton McManus in the middle. I think William Stanback's going to have a good night for the Lions tonight. And one thing that I'm really interested to see, I want to see the vibe and the energy between Nathan Rourke and Chad Kelly, because these two have had weirdly similar stories. Obviously, though, very different circumstances. Chad Kelly missed the first half of the season due to suspension. Nathan Rourke missed it due to being in the NFL. But if you remember back to the offseason, when the CFL was conducting its investigation, there was no update for a very long time on the Chad Kelly situation. Nathan Rourke was the one who took to social media criticizing the CFL and essentially egging them on, saying, look at what Chad Kelly's been accused of. You need to throw the book at this guy. And so I don't think that Nathan Rourke is a big fan of Chad Kelly. I think it's safe to say Chad Kelly is not a fan of Nathan Rourke. This is the first time these guys have ever started against each other. So not only do they have the potential to play at an MLP level, but I think there's some added fuel to the fire for both of these guys. So it's going to be a very interesting game, well worth staying up to midnight local time to finish it, Huss.
Yeah, and you know what? Just on that topic, Chad Kelly and the Argos, not a popular guy or outfit here in Winnipeg. However, it is going to be funny because Bomber fans are going to be pulling big time for Toronto to shock the CFL, get a win, because, I mean, we know right now this is a dogfight, 5 games to the finish line for Winnipeg and BC. And, John, particularly for Winnipeg, having that home field and having a team like BC, or Edmonton for that matter, having to come to Winnipeg in the middle of winter is an advantage that, cannot be overstated.
Well, and if you look at BC, right, the changes that they made this offseason, they went from, not really particularly caring about the running back position, just kind of rotating in different receiving backs and scat backs. They went out and paid real money to bring in a power back. Defensively, they let David Menard, who was like a very good situational pass rusher, go. And they brought in a true heavy front. They've invested in almost like a 4-down football style of defensive line. Christian Covington, right? One of their defensive linemen just spent 10 years in the NFL. And I believe that was done largely as a result of the last 2 West finals, right? We've seen this team come into cold weather football games and get blown off the line of scrimmage. I think that this team said, hey, we can, we're throwing the ball all over the place, whether it's Vernon Adams Jr. or Nathan Rourke back there. And that's great, but it doesn't mean anything if we can't beat Winnipeg in the playoffs. So I think BC changed a lot of their team this past offseason, specifically to have a formula that could beat the Bombers. And I think, Huss, if this game does end up being in Vancouver for the West Final, that's going to be a tough out because BC can do their open passing game and take full advantage of being in that dome, but also use the changes that they've made to their benefit to try to shut down what Winnipeg does well. If it's in Winnipeg with the atmosphere at Princess Auto Stadium, if that West Final is going to be sold out if it's in Winnipeg. It's going to be loud. It's going to be cold. We all know that people from the West Coast are soft. And yes, I'm aware that the BC Lions practice outdoors. Everybody always, well, they're not a dome team. They practice outdoors. Okay. Yeah. They practice outdoors in 13-degree weather. Yeah. Wow. Real tough. Like, wow. Yeah. Sorry. I'm painting them as this wild. Oh yeah. And regardless, they're a dome team, right? So being at home for them in the playoffs means the world. Being on the road in the playoffs could be tough.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, to the Bombers' credit, I mean, they have fared very well in BC in recent years, and they're the one team that's been able to beat Nathan Rourke. You'd still way rather have that game at home and not having to play in the 2-3 game, because I think that's going to be a tough out for whoever's there. Edmonton or Saskatchewan right now, who makes the playoffs in your opinion?
Edmonton.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think it's Edmonton. And yeah, I don't care if you're BC, if you're Winnipeg. I think the idea of hosting Edmonton, a team that has been playing with house money since Chris Jones got fired, it's like, okay, there's no expectations for what we do. We've got a brand new owner, everything, Edmonton has had no pressure, no adversity, I think, since those things, because no one set any expectations, even of themselves. I'm not sure what the expectations were. So they've been playing with house money for a while now. There's been no pressure. And I think that they've taken great advantage of that in saying, hey, we're just going to go out there and smash some guys and play our game. And they've been having a ton of success with that. So I do think that Edmonton is going to be the third seed in the West Division. And if you strapped the folks in BC or the folks in Winnipeg to a lie detector and said, hey, how scared of you are Edmonton? They'd probably deny it, but I think both teams would be. Edmonton is a dangerous team, especially come the playoffs, especially how well they run the ball. They do it better than anybody.
Well, and that works come playoff time. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were 100-1 to win the Grey Cup. Last week, it was 36. Today it's 25. But I mean, the fact that the Riders are 11-1 and the Elks are 25-1, just separated by a half game, makes absolutely no sense to me. But I have a feeling it's still going to come down to Winnipeg and BC. John, great stuff as always. Enjoy homecoming tomorrow and that big Bison game. Fill people in on what you and the fellas have cooking over at 3 Down.
I mean, we got daily CFL coverage, 8 to 10 articles a day. We have no paywall. We have very few ads. We got anything that you want to know about the CFL, Canadian football, U Sports. We got a little bit of NFL flavor thrown in as well. I'm enjoying the bye week, but again, excited for Bisons tomorrow. And we'll be back with full Bombers coverage and everything else next week.
2 huge games coming up between Winnipeg and Edmonton beginning next weekend. John, thanks so much for this, eh?
Thanks, Huss. Anytime.
All right, there's John Hodge from 3 Down Nation. We're going to talk a little more Jets and maybe it's some fish with Mike McIntyre coming up right away. As I mentioned, Princess Auto Stadium, pretty quiet this week. It will be rocking tomorrow, though, for the Bison home opener. And then, of course, a couple weeks later, the Bombers will be back for that huge game against Edmonton. Princess Auto stores, though, this weekend will definitely be busy because it is Princess Auto's Mega Smasher sale running now through the 22nd of September. Get the best deals of the season on everything you need to get the job done around your shop, garage, home, or at work. Tomorrow's a big day. They'll be showcasing log splitters for their demo days. You'll be able to see them in action and get educated on how to choose the best log splitter for your needs. And check out some of these promos they've got on right now with the Mega Smasher. These first 2 are in store. 60-gallon Sanborn air compressor for only $7.88, and you'll get a $101 Princess Auto gift card in store and a 3,400 PSI wet jet pressure washer for only $8.99, and receive a $201 Princess Auto gift card. Both of those deals are in store. They've also got 15-inch trailer tires for just $98 and save $600 on the 26-inch Bozeman sawmill, and grab a trailer while you're at it. Visit your local Princess Auto store, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online at megasmasher.ca for all the great deals over at our friends at Princess Auto. Well, the weekend is here. No Bomber game this weekend, but it doesn't mean that you might not want to mix in the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with some of your weekend activities. Of course, I'm speaking about Canada's favorite, oldest Canadian whiskey, the original Canadian Club. Pick it up at your local Manitoba liquor marts and keep an eye out for Canadian Club and Ginger Ale pre-mixed cocktail in cans. That is also available wherever you pick up beers for the weekend. So keep your eye out for that. Huge thanks to Canadian Club for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Folks, if you got If you've got fencing needs or overhead door needs, only one place to go, and that is the experts at Wallace & Wallace. They've been doing it since 1946 as the leaders in both fencing and overhead doors. Vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences, whatever you need, they've got you covered. And if you need a garage door, they've got the biggest selection of garage doors in town, something perfect to match your home and add value to it. 452-2700 is the number. Give the Wallace & Wallace team a call. They'll arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lowson Crescent. And as we bring in Mike McIntyre, don't forget, gang, it is seeming a little more fall-like today with the change of the seasons. You might be looking into your closet and realizing, I need to up my menswear game. Well, the time to get down to F Apparel is now, if that's the case. Custom suits beginning at $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Pop by and see them at 190 Smith Street, and make sure to ask the fellas if you are in a wedding or in a wedding party about a 15% discount when the fellas get their suits for the big day at F Apparel. You can also check them out online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F, that's EPH, apparel.com. All right. Let's welcome in Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Lots to get to. Mike, what's going on? How are you?
I could not be better, Huss. Life is good. A lot of fun times around here on the sports scene between the Young Stars getting underway tonight. Looking forward to seeing what some of the top prospects of the Jets look like. Of course, the Goldeyes. What a great scene down at Blue Cross Park last night, and not a lot of rest here as they get right back into it tomorrow on the road in Illinois, and should be a fun few days next week, as now we know the championship will get settled down at the Downtown Diamond. But the biggest sports news of all, Huss, if I could direct Remis to please put the image that I just tweeted out a few minutes ago. The big sports news of the week that has me really in a good mood is my 1-0 start to the Media Fantasy Football League. I won't say a dominant victory, more like hanging on for dear life, but a victory nonetheless over the Rat Pack. 1-0, off to the races.
I got hosed big time. I needed, 7 points from Greg Zuerlein. And on a night where the Niner kicker had about 30 points.
I know 6 field goals.
My guy. Listen, that situation has been dealt with. Greg Zuerlein, no longer a member of the Pat Pack. Wow. Heading into week 2, clear, decisive action has been taken for my squad. Congratulations. Don't raise the banner after week 1. I hope to see you later on sometime in the regular season. Hey,
yes.
Before we kind of dive into the hockey, you mentioned the Goldeyes. It feels like I've been living at the ballpark. I think I was there 4 of the last 4 nights in the last 6 days. But I got to tell you, I can't wait to get back again. The atmosphere around these games, how into it. There's just something special about playoff baseball. And holy smokes, both the Sioux Falls, but especially the Fargo games. I mean, literally 9 innings of nail biting for the people that have been around there. And it came right down to the end with the local product, Ben Anishko, kind of putting an exclamation mark on an incredible season with the Goldeyes, closing the door with the tying run on second and the winning run on first in the 9th inning last night.
Yeah, it was special. I mean, you could kind of cut the tension with a knife down
Big
there.
time.
Both games, the Goldeyes get that lead on Wednesday, and you could almost feel Fargo just chipping away. It almost felt inevitable, and certainly, put it this way, I had a newspaper deadline Wednesday. I didn't start to write a single word because something about the way that game was going. I had a feeling that the fish weren't exactly home and cool, and they weren't. But give them credit. I mean, they come back last night. They're without one of their best hitters, Ramon Bramasco, who injured his hamstring on Wednesday and had to come out of the game. So they're already short, a big weapon offensively. And what a start by Mitch Lamson, Huss. Like, he throws nothing but junk. There's no heaters at all from him. Like, his velocity, I think the highest he throws is about a mid-80s fastball, but he's mixing in all the off-speed stuff. in the 60s and the 70s, strikes out 11 last night. He just had the Fargo batters looking absolutely foolish up there. And, the Goldeyes left a lot of runners on base again last night, and you wondered if that might come back to bite them. But they had just enough offense. And what a great story. Like, you could not script a better ending. If you're Andrew Collier and Sam Cates, like, the Goldeyes are the local team, of course. But the number of local players that have been on the team over the years is very small. That's just a fact of life. This is still a very good baseball league. This isn't beer league baseball. This is like AA equivalent, really. And there haven't been a lot of Winnipeg-born baseball players. The Ben Onishko story is just a tremendous one. This is a guy that until a couple months ago was in the Seattle Mariners system. He was one of just 2 Winnipeggers that is in MLB-affiliated ball. The other one, Tristan Peters, would be the other fellow from Winkler. He's the only Winnipegger, though. And Ben Onishko's pitching in AA. He has a couple rough outings, and he gets cut and released, kind of like what you just did to your kicker. And, the hometown Goldeyes come calling, and Ben Onishko has been nothing short of dominant. I think he's had like 46 innings pitched, just over a 1 ERA. And, he got in a little bit of trouble last night. They got 2 singles with 1 out. So suddenly the tying runs are on base. Give credit to, the manager, Logan Watkins, who stuck with him. And what a special moment. I was on the field there ducking champagne and Gatorade that was just flying on the field. And I had a chance to chat with Ben Onishko for a few minutes last night. And you could just see how special this was. He had said he had a lot of family and friends there, and to be in such a big moment like that for a team that he grew up watching, the Goldeyes, given where his career was a couple months ago to now, it's just a really cool story. And, you almost get the sense that this Goldeyes team they're on a mission, and they're not just content now with winning 2 series. And, we'll see what they can do here against Kane County, but it should be a great final.
Well, and Nishko, I mean, obviously we're, kind of following the club, and, it was kind of neat to see, go to games in the regular season. Sometimes you're not even locked in on who the guys are in.
Right.
And then you pull up the pitching numbers. And we were doing it just because Matalovich has had one of the great pitching seasons for a starter in Goldeyes history. The entire staff was incredible. That was really the backbone of getting them through. I mean, Barrasso, I think, lost 3 1-0 games. They were so good. But Onishko, he gave up a run or 2 in that final series, making his ERA balloon to 1.03. He was literally at like 0.5 or 0.6 for the majority of the season.
Right.
And did it. But you know what? There's much more than him. But part of the reason why, those 11 Ks that they got last night from Mitch Lamson was so huge is that they drained the pen.
Sure
in
did.
Game number 2. I mean, they brought the closer out in the 4th or the 5th inning in a high leverage situation, and then just kept on. It seemed like it was the leadoff walks really killed them in that game, and Fargo put them over. But like, I'll give both pitching staffs a lot of credit. I mean, I think there was 25 total runners left on base in game number 2, and you just knew that it was going to be one hit here or there that ended up being the difference. And the Fish got it done. Now on the road for the first 2 games on the weekend. I think a bunch of the guys headed down to the PAL afterwards. My spies around town.
Sources, high level sources.
For a few, a little bit of celebration, but they left at 3:45 a.m.
Yeah, long bus ride.
It is a long one. But anyways, they'll have the day today to just relax, travel, and then 2 on the road, and then coming back for what should be just an awesome week, Mike, with a game for sure on Tuesday, and then Wednesday and Thursday if necessary. And of course, we'll be paying attention to what the Goldeyes are up to over the course of the weekend before talking about it next week when the team's back for home games one final time for the season, playing for the Miles Wolf Cup and the championship trophy of the American Association. Mike, let's head over to the Jets. You've been around a little bit. You've been talking to some of the veterans. We'll get to the young stars in a minute, but What have you gathered from the guys that are doing captain skates right now and the returnees look ahead to training camp first and foremost in the upcoming season?
Yeah, I had a chance to chat with Adam Lowry yesterday, Kyle Connor, talked to Mark Scheifele earlier in the week. Mark Scheifele was in a great mood, Huss. By
the way, that Scheifele scrum, we were talking about it. We played a whole bunch of the clips.
Yeah.
Some of the most open, engaging stuff we've heard from Mark Scheifele, I think, ever.
Well, and we talk a lot about if you're a young player, how encouraged they must have been to hear what Kevin Cheveldayoff had to say about job openings. Also, to hear what Mark Scheifele had to say, like, this is a guy who he's signed, he's going to be a Jet for life. He's starting his 7-year contract extension. And for him to kind of, and he almost just volunteered this, like he was asked a pretty open-ended question about, what excites him about the season. And he talked about some of the young players and kind of, he joked about how he's an old fart now in his words, but, talking about he remembers being in the position of guys like Brad Lambert trying to now make an impact and that the door is wide open for those guys. I thought that was really interesting. And I thought it was really interesting that he actually mentioned a few guys by names, Brad Lambert, Nikita Chibrikov, and Braden Yeager. Like that was, and Elias Solomonson as well. And talking to Brad Lambert on Wednesday, like he was absolutely thrilled to hear that Mark Scheifele kind of gave him a shout out as one of the things, he's most excited about for the coming season. So, yeah, the vibes are great. Everyone's excited, I think, about the season ahead. And like as much as maybe a lot of fans are harping on what didn't go well last year, specifically the playoffs and that speedy exit, I think, hearing from some of these core players, they're more focused on what they did over the 82 games last year, which I think some people have almost forgotten in a way. They were the 4th best team in the league, right there with the Florida Panthers. They both had 110 points. They won the Jennings Trophy as the best defensive team. And, players have pointed out that the roster to start this year, with a few exceptions, and Brendan Dillon's absence is the one that has been singled out the most. But the opportunity for some young players to fill roles and the return of a stable, established, and skilled core, I think is a reason for a lot of optimism. And, to hear Adam Lowry talk, this is maybe one thing we almost forget about too, Huss. The Jets were the 4th best team in the regular season last year, in spite of a terrible power play through large stretches of the year and an absolutely horrible penalty kill really through the entire year. And, they brought in 2 new assistant coaches to try and rectify that. We'll see what that looks like in terms of personnel and systems. But I think that's part of the reason for optimism too, the thinking that, well, surely it has to improve given the personnel we have here. And if it does, that's going to help us in a way that we just didn't get that kind of help last season.
Mike, listen, the power play is I think something that we're going to be focusing in on big time throughout training camp. I mean, how it looks, different personnel.
Yep.
This weekend, though, the focus is on the prospects. And, you kind of mentioned Mark Scheifele mentioning Braden Yeager. You got a piece in the Winnipeg Free Press. I mean, his first impression to us and fans when he joined us a couple weeks ago, right after the trade, was an A+, and it seems like he's both turning heads on and off the ice now that he's here in the Peg looking to try and earn a job.
He was putting on a bit of a symphony at Wednesday's skate house. Every time he shot the puck, you were hearing ping, ping, because he'd go bar down. And he had a couple of shots that, a lot of people kind of looking at each other, media and certainly fans going like, did you see that? He can absolutely fire the puck. And, from in tight, he made this one play during a drill that it's the kind of play that I've honestly only seen Kyle Connor be able to make, where it doesn't really seem to have any space and somehow is able to elevate the puck in a ton of traffic. And I asked him about that after, and he kind of sheepishly smiled and said, yeah, I love to work on that kind of small area, hands and skills stuff. He's got a lot of that. Whether that can translate right away for the Jets. Obviously, step one is this Young Stars event, and no pressure, Braden, but Wrecker McGroarty, I saw, put up a goal and an assist earlier today in his Penguins Young Stars debut. We'll see what Mr. Yeager can respond with. Not that it's a head-to-head contest.
Is this where we're at? We're watching Penguins camp scrimmages and rookie camp to see what the other guy is doing?
You know it, Huss. That's the world we live in. The debate will rage on for sure. But it'll be fun to see what he can do. Look pretty good in that skate on Wednesday, and now he's got 3 games here, and then obviously big camp next week. But I think there's a ton of optimism around this Jets club, and it's good to see. Pretty much the gang is all here, if you will. As of yesterday, only Connor Hellebuck, Nino Niederreiter, and Nikolai Ehlers had yet to come to town, and I'm told all 3 of those guys will be here this weekend. So, they've had a lot of the guys here now since Labor Day, basically. So these captain skates, if you will, they're optional, but there has been a big turnout, and you can see, even from Tuesday to yesterday, you could see the pace intensify a little bit. They're obviously ramping up, and they want to be able to hit the ground running when training camp and ultimately the regular season starts here in a few weeks.
Well, and speaking of hit the ground running, I think it says a lot about Brad Lambert and where his head's at right now, that he is playing this weekend for a 3rd time in the Prospects tournament, which a lot of first-rounders don't do. But he came in, he said all the right things, and he looks like he's had a good summer and maybe a little bit more physically ready to handle NHL opportunities.
Yeah, he mentioned putting on 8 pounds this summer and how he thinks can win a few more puck battles. I jokingly told him that I put on 8 pounds this summer, and I'm not any better of a hockey player than I'm still terrible. But yeah, I mean, did you happen to play or see the Mark Morrison clip from Wednesday?
We were just actually doing it a little earlier today on the program.
Okay. I should watch your show, but I'm doing some writing here, of course.
Lots going on. We get it.
Exactly. But so Mark Morrison, first of all, like you said, he gave Brad Lambert a lot of credit. It seems like the decision was Brad Lambert's, like whether he wanted to come to this. And, Mark Morrison gave him all the credit for showing leadership. I suspect, I think they wear letters, like they give a few guys letters I suspect Brad Lambert's going to have a letter on his sweater in tonight's game. We'll see it at 6:00, but there's obviously some leadership there that he said, no, I realize I don't have to come to this. He already made his NHL debut last year in game 82, had a great rookie season with the Moose, but he says he wants to be here. So good for him. And, the most interesting thing, I believe it was Scotty Billick, who asked Mark Morrison, is Brad Lambert, or maybe it was John Liu. I can't remember who asked the question, but someone asked him, is Brad Lambert ready to make the jump to the NHL? And it wasn't so much what Mark Morrison said. It's almost what he didn't say that spoke volumes. Like, you could tell that Mark Morrison believes that, yes, he is. I think he couched it something like, I have my opinions, but I'm not going to state them here. But then he added at the end, Brad's taken some big steps. So that's a big vote of confidence from, the coach that knows Brad Lambert the best. He spent all of last season with him on the Moose. And I suspect if Mark Morrison is willing to say that much in front of the cameras, I suspect there's been some interesting conversations off camera, between him and the Jets staff. Those guys talk every day. The Jets would be well aware of what Mark Morrison thinks of Brad Lambert. And I'm really, really, really curious to see where Lambert starts training camp next week. I'll caution, we should never read too much into line pairings on day one of camp. But Huss, I will be there on Thursday morning with my phone in hand and my thumbs ready to go, fascinated to see where Brad Lambert is. Do they line him up, for example, between Kyle Connor and Cole Perfetti? If Cole Perfetti is signed by next Thursday, does he get that first crack at second line center? If I'm the Jets, I already know that Vlad Nemestikov can play there. I don't need to see Vlad Nemestikov lined up as the so-called 2C when camp gets underway. You know he can do that. I'd like to see Brad Lambert in that spot.
Well, listen, Brad, I think, has done so much for his cause, certainly in the offseason. I mean, working out, he was with Gary Roberts. I mean, that's exactly what you want to hear. But that Moose team could have folded big time last year with where they were mid-season after that extended losing streak. And, for what he, Chibrikov, and that entire team did, clawing back in, making the playoffs, I think spoke volumes. And I think as much as anything that he did on the ice, the way they attacked that situation and overcame it, I think is another thing that, is really going to help Brad in the eyes of the organization and his readiness to make it happen. You mentioned Cole Perfetti. What day do we get the deal? And how many years will be on that deal, Mike?
Yeah, I think at this point it's going to probably be a bridge as much as. And
if it's going to be a bridge, why isn't it done already?
Yeah, I just think they're not making the progress that they've hoped to make on a long-term deal, that either side has not come to the position where that's going to happen. I do think the bridge is the fallback, and that's why I'm not worried that Cole Perfetti is not going to be here by next Thursday. He's already here in town. He's skating. I think that's everybody knows that's the fallback. I think that's what's likely going to happen. But things could change, I guess, at the last minute. I just think if we're looking at a date, I don't know, the Jets have a big golf tournament next Monday. The whole team will be there. That would seem to be a good day to share some really good news. So I'll put Monday as my best guess on when a deal gets announced.
It's funny. I guess I'm sort of on an island here. I'm more on the side of a longer term deal. I just think that, and the optics of Perfetti representing the Jets at the media
for sure.
Run in Vegas, the amount of his contemporaries and peers that have done similarly, maybe not 8 years, but 6-7 year deals,
Agreed.
Makes a lot of sense. And as I say, I think the Jets as an organization would like to get that done if the number does make sense. And kind of got a feeling that they are going that way. I'm still, and I realize I'm not talking 90-10, but I still think I would bet 60% on on a 6-year deal, for instance, which I think would make a lot of sense too for him.
Get another big deal down the road. Sure.
It brings him up. It doesn't take him to 30. It takes him to 28 or so to sign that next deal.
Right on.
So we'll see that coming up. One other guy that I know who spoke. We played a couple clips earlier on. Well, we've been spending so much time talking about the forward group and kind of knowing who is in the mix.
Quick time out here, Huss. I got someone at my door, so give me 1 second.
Oh, perfect,
here.
Mike. This is
one of the work from.
This is the great live experience of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Mike giving us a beautiful tour of the McIntyre HQ.
Yes.
But I was just going to ask you about Elias Salomonsson. He, he's been here before.
Yeah.
Had a monster season last year, winning a championship in Sweden. What did you gather from Elias and his plans for himself for training camp in this upcoming year?
Well, he's got the perfect attitude, right? He's not taking anything for granted. He's talking about the need to prove himself. He knows he's playing in Winnipeg one way or the other. He's either with the Jets or the Moose. I think Huss, even if he has a really, really, really good training camp, I think it's still more likely than not that he starts with the Moose. Because I think the Jets have, between Ville Heinola, they've still got Logan Stanley here. We know they re-signed Colin Miller. I think they probably have their top 7 defensemen. And what would be the point of keeping Elias Salomonsson around if he's going to be just a guy floating in? They want him to play, obviously, and get acclimatized to North America. And I think he's probably going to play a big role on the farm. It's interesting that he is rooming with Dylan Anhorn, who he will be paired with, at least for tonight's preseason or Young Stars game. Dylan Anhorn, for those who don't know who he is, he was signed last year by the Moose out of St. Cloud as a college free agent. The guy oozes charm and character and charisma. He was the captain of St. Cloud. He's a great talker, just a really good guy, and a pretty good defenseman too. And I think they see him as a perfect mentor, if you will, a partner to start here for Elias Salomonson. So I think there's a method to the madness, if you will, why they've got them rooming together, pairing together. And I could see them playing together to start the season on the Moose blue line as well, that would just carry over. But yeah, I mean, the kid obviously has all kinds of talent. He's fresh off winning a championship in Sweden. And I think what people maybe don't totally realize about him, he's bigger than a lot of people think. And he's got a mean, borderline nasty streak. He was suspended 3 times last year. We talk about his skating and his puck moving, and he's really good at all that. He's also not afraid to take a run at a guy, and it was fascinating. I believe this was John Liu the other day of TSN who asked him, growing up in Sweden, your favorite player must have been Erik Karlsson, and he actually said that no, that wasn't his favorite player. His favorite player is Adam Larsson, who plays a much more hard-nosed, borderline dirty game. So I thought that was a really interesting answer. If he was a little older, he might have said Nicholas Cronwell as well, because he's got some of those Cronwell type, the desire to put a guy through the boards if he can. And I can tell you, the Jets were not at all upset that he got suspended 3 times last year. They love that he's got that bit of an edge. I'm not saying he's going to replace Brendan Dillon in the lineup, but he's a lot tougher than I think a lot of people realize.
Mike, great stuff as always. Big week next week. I imagine you guys will be covering the prospects camp as well, but tee up the return of the vets next week, the beginning of training camp, and what you, Ken, and the team has coming up in the Winnipeg Free Press.
Yeah, Kenny he'll be making his way back from Italy early next week, and then we'll have a big preview. I believe it's going to run in Wednesday's paper, kind of all the storylines and key questions and whatnot of camp. And then, it's full steam ahead for camp every day. Obviously, the 6 preseason games. We're going to have all our usual stuff that we did last year, our weekly dump and chase column every Saturday, our game day newsletter, the warm-up that will go out every game day to subscribers, and it's free to sign up for that. Mailbags, prospects reports, and, of course, traveling to road games as well. So, full coverage ahead. Looking forward to it, and happy to have a little late season baseball mixed in as well. It's a great time to be a sports fan and a sports writer in this market. No question.
Yeah, well, I'll see you next week, both at the ballpark and at the rink. Can't wait for it. Good luck against Ed Tate this week in our media league. You are you're predicted to win right now.
I am. But you were predicted to beat me last week, so we know what those predictions.
But that was like 51-49. And again, it didn't account for a complete no-show from my kicker on Monday night. Mike, thanks for doing this, buddy. Great stuff.
Have a great weekend.
All right, folks. The weekend is here. We're going to talk NFL with Hacksaw right away. But first, a big cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug on a Friday.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Oh, we'll look forward to a few more Little Brown Jugs at the ballpark next week on Tuesday and potentially Wednesday and Thursday as the Goldeyes continue their push for an American Association championship. And, of course, Little Brown Jug available at Blue Cross Park and, of course, Canada Life Center when we get back to the rink next week for the Winnipeg Jets. This weekend, tomorrow and Sunday, huge tent sale at Royal Sports. If you've never been to a Royal tent sale, you got to check it out if you like great deals, and I know you Winnipeggers do. Thousands of pairs of shoes and pieces of merchandise, all 50% off or more. It is, you only get a few of these every year. This is the final one of the summer and fall, so make sure to get down to Royal Sports Saturday and Sunday for their world-famous tent sale. Check out their Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for all the details on the sale, as well as probably some video of them setting up for the big couple days. And, of course, with hockey beginning around the province. Royal is your one-stop shop for all things hockey, the hockey superstore in the city for over 40 years. We've got some CFL tonight, big one between BC and the Toronto Argonauts. Tomorrow, college football slate, and then a full day of NFL action. No better place to get together with your gang and watch all the games than your local Boston Pizza. Enter to win a trip to Vegas for Super Bowl weekend and other great NFL prizes at your local BP throughout the NFL season, including jersey giveaways and more. Staying at home tonight, order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, we've got a lot to talk about as we head into week 2. Let's bring in Lee Hacksaw Hamilton to get into the NFL notebook. Saw, what's up, buddy? How are you? Oh, wait, we got you muted. Hold on a sec, Lee.
Yeah, that was me. Sorry. He's good now.
Okay. Lee, what's going on?
That's one strike against your producer.
It's
in Canada,
thin ice.
3 downs. Yeah, 3 downs in football. In baseball, you get 2 strikes. Second strike, he's out. I'm doing fine. Beer Friday, football Friday. Hey, it's nice.
Hey, listen, let's start off with last night's game and really the entire week for the Miami Dolphins, because I kind of thought we'd be leading talking about this Tyreek Hill incident from last week and the fallout from it, but pretty hard not to start off talking about the concern for Tua Tagovailoa and his future after another concussion last night, considering the scary ones that he'd already had early in his career.
Yeah, it's my heart sank when I saw it because I know what he's been through. And people say, well, gee, why didn't he slide feet first? Because he had done that all of last season. That's instinct taking over a player trying to get to a first down. And I think the instinct is, I'm just going to get there and I'll reach for it and go ahead first, get it done. And, it's a flash decision that he made. Had he slid feet first, he probably wouldn't have got the first down, but then he wouldn't have gotten hurt either. I think the scary aspect when you just see what happened, how his body reacted, he didn't take a helmet hit. His helmet hit the shoulder pad of the cornerback coming in to tackle him, Hamler. So the DB had nothing to do with the injury. It was just the angle that the contact was made. But to see his body react and to see him roll over and see his right arm doing this, you knew it was a very serious injury, and that had happened to him a couple years ago, actually against the Buffalo Bills. I think the big issue is we're talking now 3rd concussion in 24 months. The first 2 were pretty significant. This looks like it's pretty significant. And then if you add on, as a rookie at Miami and his last year at Alabama, he had 5 total head incidents now over the course of his career. And the problem, if you ask sports medicine people, you ask Blue Bomber people about concussion protocol, you can have them eat more easily the second time and the third time with those kind of heavy jolts. So this is not a good situation. Mike McDaniel, his coach, is very upset. He's upset at Tua's health situation. He's upset at all the second guessing. Now he's upset at NFL coaches. Within the last 2 hours, a couple of NFL coaches have gone public. Antonio Pierce of the Raiders, who has an opinion on everything, and of course played in the league for almost a decade, and had his own set of concussions. Antonio Pierce said he should retire. And then Doug Peterson of the Jacksonville Jaguars just said today after practice that if it were my quarterback, with the number of issues that have occurred, if it were my quarterback, I would tell him to leave football. Mike McDaniels, I think, he's bothered by some of that conversation. But again, these are people responding to media questions, and we have a right to ask, and they have a right to answer if they wish. It's really sad because he remade himself. At Alabama, he was a pocket passer, option scramble guy, and he got hurt. He had a bad hip injury on top of everything else. He had a lot of injuries at Alabama, and then he got hurt at Miami, and he reinvented himself last year. I mean, he became strictly a pocket passer. He hardly ran at all, Hustler, and then all of a sudden last night, instinct takes over, and this happens. So, yeah. That's a story of grave concern. I don't think he plays for an extended period if he comes back at all this year, or maybe he elects to retire. And there's kind of a father-son relationship between Mike McDaniel and him. There's a real special emotional bond. And McDaniel today was very emotional, and he got choked up on the podium and said, I just won't field any questions about his future. I'm not going to field any questions about IR. Let's just focus on his health and the battery of exams he's having on Friday and what they're going to do on Sunday, and then make a determination what Monday should look like. So, I think Mike knows the depths and the seriousness of this situation. It's terrible. It is the NFL. These things happen. This was not intentional. And isn't it odd that the guy who was making the tackle is Hamler, who had the heart attack on the field a couple of years ago in Buffalo, when everybody put their arms around the kid in Buffalo. And
yeah.
Can he survive? Will he survive? Et cetera. Just, it's so eerie.
And I mean, listen, moving forward, I mean, we know that this is a cutthroat business. But I mean, first and foremost, and I have no doubt that Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins will think about Tua as a person first, and what another incident like this might do to just his ability to live a normal life beyond football. And as I say, it was a real tough, story to be talking about coming out of last night in a huge win for the Buffalo Bills. And I mean, as I said right off the bat, this weekend started off in a very bizarre fashion with Tyreek Hill. And listen, they were not looking good. I still can't believe the way Jacksonville choked that game away with the fumble on the goal line, which would have been a 17-point lead. Immediately, 80-yarder to Tyreek the other way, and he got to do his handcuff dance in the end zone. But is there going to be much fallout from this?
Well, you're talking about the Tyreek scenario.
Yeah, exactly. With the cops in Miami-Dade.
I think this has to end. This has to end. And as I evaluated it through the course of the week, he would not let it end. And he pulled a race card out. And that just threw gasoline on the fire. At the end of the day, when you go back, and I got access to the police report, and you go back and you read that he was doing 76 in a 35 zone around the stadium where there's fans on the sidewalks and a lot of cars. So he was speeding, and he didn't have a seatbelt on. He had a cell phone in his hand. So when the highway patrolman on the motorcycle pulled him over, he had the dark tinted windows, which in many states are outlawed. Now, maybe not in Florida, but he refused to roll them down. And the guy kept tapping on the window. And Tyreek said, "Don't tap on my window." Police officer said, "Roll your window down." Nothing happened. Tapped again. "Don't do that. Roll your window down." He finally cracked it. And he saw he was on a cell phone. And he gave him his driver's license finally. And then he rolled the window back up. He did not want to communicate with the officer. And then he made a wise-ass comment, "Just write me a ticket, bro. I'm going to work." So there was an arrogance there. And then he would not roll the window down the second time. And the officer said, "If you don't roll it down, we're going to escort you out of the car." No response. That's when the other officer walked up, opened the door, reached in, and hauled him out. All the time, Tyreek is on the phone screaming to the director of security of the Dolphins, "I'm being arrested, and they threw him face down. They used physical force to put the handcuffs on him, and then he made the comment, "You beat me like a dog," which did not happen. But he was not cooperative at all. So then he plays the game and has the big game and all that. And, then after the game, Hustler, he goes in press conference and he pulls the race card out. What if I wasn't Tyreek Hill? Insinuating I might be dead, and his teammates tried to defuse it, and the police did not want Miami Dolphin players to walk into that scenario because they felt that would ignite a situation with all the fans that were standing and the cars that had stopped and were walking around. And in Tyreek, all week long, he just kept talking about it and inciting it even farther.
He was on CNN on Monday night.
Yes. So at the end of the day, I blame him for being the trigger point, but I'll give you a different opinion because I'm close to police officers here in San Diego and sheriff's deputies. They work in fear. My next door neighbor is a single mother, sheriff's deputy with 2 young kids. She goes to work in fear because you never know when you have a traffic stop or you go to a call at a house. What's going on in that car? What's going on in the house? Because we have all kinds of history in the books now of cops doing their job, just getting shot, trying to do their job from crazy people, gun-toting people. So an officer has no idea. My only beef was once they got him out of the vehicle and they had the driver's license. It said Tyreek Hill. They knew who he was. Why the physical force? Why do we need 2 to 3 guys sitting on him to handcuff him?
No one really looked good coming out of this. And listen, Tyreek did mention, I mean, I'll give him a small bit of credit that he did in a press conference earlier this week say that he should have acted in a different way, and that probably did contribute to it as well.
Well, I think, but the other factor is it just came out last night. The police officer who has been pinpointed in this, because Tyreek Culver is firing, the police officer and his lawyer called Tyreek's agent and wanted to apologize to him and talk to him. Tyreek refused to take the phone call. And it just goes on and on and on. I would hope they'd learn from it. It's a sad commentary. They're both to blame to a degree, but I protect the cops because the cops are trying to do their job and don't do it ever again. But, you know, the other piece of the equation on this hustler is that Tyreek's got a real track record of stuff off the field.
Oh, he's no choir boy.
Girlfriend. Yeah, choking the pregnant girlfriend, multiple domestic abuse issues. It's got baby mamas all over South Florida. I think there's 3 different lawsuits about child raising and child support. So we're not talking about a state-of-the-art citizen here. There's a whole bunch of other things that kind of fall in this equation. I hope it solves itself. I hope it never happens again. But got to use your head in these cases.
No doubt about it. Let's get to the action on the weekend. I'm fired up for this Chiefs-Bengals game. What happened to Cincinnati last week? Is New England better than we thought they were, or was that just an absolute dud at home from a team that a lot of us expected of with Joe Burrow leading the way?
Well, you're asking an NFL guy who's covered this thing forever. This is an organizational problem in Cincinnati. First of all, I don't think Joe Burrow is totally healthy. I saw video of him walking around, shaking his wrist and his arm. Remember, he's coming off wrist surgery for fracture and torn ligaments. He doesn't look right. And he did not throw the ball down the field very well either. So that's a big issue too. And this is an organizational failure. They don't have a lot of good people around him. And, you know, they let their big running back go, Joe Mixon. What did he do last week in his first game in Houston? He ran for 159, and they got rid of him. And I don't like their offensive line situation. A little bit wafer thin at wide receiver. So the Bengals as an organization, I think, are failing Joe Burrow. And the only success they've had is because of Joe Burrow's greatness. But here we are, week 2 of the season. And what are we talking about? Wrist injury. Is he healthy? And he's playing, and he's not playing well. So big issues there.
Well, they're talking a lot of smack too, Lee. I don't get that Cincinnati team. Like, I know they do have a rivalry with the Chiefs, and they've had some really close games, but, you know, to come to play the way they did, and then now to go into Arrowhead and be flapping gums all week long, it just doesn't seem like a good way to approach a game against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, I hope Burrow is not having a setback with his wrist, because that kid has taken a real pounding in Cincinnati. He's had 3 major injuries in a row. I'd hate to see him out there and re-injure it again. But this, to me, it's an organizational situation. This is a Mike Brown responsibility situation about what the makeup of this roster is and how you blowing players out, letting guys go, and what your draft look like. And it's a tough set of circumstances in Cincinnati.
Hey, what? Speaking of quarterbacks, what'd you think of the rookie debuts last week? Kind of quiet for Caleb Williams. The defense and special teams bailed them out. I got to tell you, I don't know how many games they're going to win in Washington this year, but it's going to be fun watching that Jalen Daniels do his thing. You know, a number of rookie QBs got their first start. Who stood out?
Well, you know, Caleb had a really good preseason, but that's preseason where they're running chocolate and vanilla defenses. And he got to regular season. Here comes blitz packages from every place. He never saw some of the stuff ever in college at USC. So, you know, he would scramble and he'd pivot. He'd try to turn and run out of it. And every time he pivoted, turn and run out, he ran into somebody else who was going to knock him down. So he had a real tough time. I think he threw for 93 yards. Their offensive front didn't play real well in that first game. I think they'll ratchet it up. You make a big improvement between week 1 and week 2 in the NFL. Jaden Daniels, I'll tell you, statistically, what he did in preseason was pretty decent. What he did in opening day was really impressive in terms of throwing, running, and not making mistakes. And I don't happen to think that they got a great team around him. You know, Austin Eckler, the big money free agent running back, ran for 10 yards last week. So, hopefully they'll get productivity out of the skill guys around him, because he can't do that every week, run for 88 yards, because running quarterbacks eventually get knocked down and get hurt. Bo Nix went through a tough learning curve. Denver opened in Seattle. That was not easy. Sean Payton said that's a product of guys not around him, not playing very well. So I think the feeling there is he's gonna bounce back, and he'll play pretty well. And the other young quarterbacks, it's all these guys. They're all going through culture shock. I mean, the learning curve for game one in an NFL career is absolutely really steep. Because you look at what these defenses do and what they do in down and distance situations and what they do with pre-snap reads, and they're lying to the quarterback on what they're showing because something radically different's coming as soon as the ball is snapped. The learning curve for starting kid quarterbacks in the NFL, a real big challenge. And Drake May is out there, and we'll see if he gets a chance to play. He's taken almost half the snaps in New England with the number one offense, but obviously Jacoby Brissett is still the starting quarterback in Foxborough.
Hey, Lee, one other quarterback story, and it's not a good one, but it's also not a new one. Another lawsuit against Deshaun Watson. He was terrible. The Browns got smoked at home. This is probably the worst trade in NFL history and the worst contract in NFL history. Does this latest lawsuit against Deshaun Watson put his future at all in question? And is there any possibility the Browns might be able to get out of this contract with this latest news?
Well, Cleveland's ownership has been very supportive of this guy. Remember, they made this deal with this guy with this, all these lawsuits tied to his tail. When
they knew what they were getting.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He had 25 lawsuits, 24 were settled out of court. This one kind of came out of nowhere. This is 4 years after the fact that this incident happened, and now it's going to court. It's going to be a suit. The NFL is going to meet with the woman who's filed this lawsuit next week. The attorney who represents her, Tony Busby, is the same guy who represented the whole class action thing against him in Houston. Now, Busby has gone public and said, hey, we approached the Browns quarterback, his agent, 10 months ago and said, there may be litigation coming. What do you want to do to solve this, settle it, et cetera, insinuating out-of-court settlement. And they never responded. They refused to talk. So when Deshaun Watson said, I had no knowledge, I don't think that's true. Now, all that being said, the guy's a slug. The guy's a social deviant for everything he did in Houston, and he wound up losing $5 million in 11 games of his career. And then he goes out and he gets badly hurt last season with the torn labrum. So we're dealing with a whole bunch of different angle stories here involving Deshaun Watson. The league may interview this woman. But see, I don't think we can have double jeopardy. I don't think he can be penalized again for the same thing that happened in that quadrant of time in 2020, because he served this 11-game suspension, 11 games loss of salary, $5 million fine. So they may investigate, and maybe he goes back on some sort of probation. But I don't think there'll be a second set of circumstances coming. And I don't think Cleveland's going to try to get out of the contract. What Cleveland has to do is they got to find a way to get him healthy, because he just looks to be a shadow of the quarterback he was, because he was really dynamic with the Houston Texans. He just doesn't look that way right now. So, Cleveland's got, week 2 of the season. They got to get better with that guy at quarterback, and the guy at quarterback has got to quit running around in denial that I know nothing. I don't even know who this person was. That's not true.
Hey, Marbles registration open, ! Marbles in the chat. Lee, just before we go, I have to ask you, first impressions of Tom Brady and his new gig.
I guess I'll use football terminology, Hustler. The quarterback turned broadcaster. Broadcaster Tom Brady. Dude needs a lot of reps. A lot of reps in the TV booth. I was kind of disappointed. But I guess, we can't all be Tony Romo and Greg Olson and be flippant and smart and kind of cool. First broadcast in. Those two guys are really unique. Greg Olson obviously is the one that Tom Brady pushed out of the number 1 seat. Olson is now number 2, and he's getting good gigs, and he continues to be who Greg Olson is, and Romo is Romo. So maybe we expected too much from Brady. But I thought he was bland. I didn't think there was any, what's the word I'm looking for? Cadence. There was no rhythm to what he was doing. it sure looked like to me his broadcast partner kind of set him up with some softball questions. Well, I don't think you want to prearrange what you're going to say. So Tom needs to just get a lot of reps to understand that you got 15 seconds to make a smart comment or a colorful comment or a vibrant comment, and then get off with the play-by-play guy, set the next play in the down and the distance. So Tom's going through a learning curve, and Bill Belichick would be on his ass. He'd be coaching him pretty hard as a broadcaster next.
Lee, thanks so much. What's cooking at the website heading into the weekend?
Well, we got baseball pennant races this side of the border. It's absolutely crazy what's gone on here in the National League West with the Dodgers with no pitching and a lot of hitting, and the Padres in Arizona and Atlanta and the Mets chasing them for wild card spots. And it's so cool here. I know you love baseball. I've seen you drinking beer out there watching the Winnipeg team. It's so cool. The final 6 games of the season, San Diego Padres at Arizona for 3, at Dodger Stadium for 3 on the final weekend or week of the baseball season. So we got that. We had a big college football story here where the Pac-12 conference, which nearly died, has gone into the marketplace and taken 4 of the top teams from the Mountain West Conference, led by San Diego State and Boise State's great football programs. And I spent all day yesterday at press conferences till I just about passed out. So we write about all this stuff on my website. I invite everybody north of the border. I call them my O Canada network. Check my website every morning. You'll really like it. It's really different. We cover a lot, and I do cover a fair amount of hockey. And then, of course, we have the podcast on Mondays and Thursdays, and it's always up there on the YouTube channel, just LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I'm not as good as you, but I'm working as hard as you.
Saw, you're the best, buddy. Have a great sports weekend, and we'll talk to you next week for the NFL Notebook. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, brother.
Good stuff. There's Lee. And again, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. And often on Mondays and Thursdays, we'll get the WST gang, the O Canada crew, over to Hacksaw's show as soon as he is finished. All right, get those marble registrations in. We'll get to that in just a couple minutes. We're going to hit the Coolbet lines. Don't forget, Goldeyes Championship Series tickets on sale now. Tuesday is Game 3. That game is assured of happening. Game 4 and Game 5 Wednesday and Thursday, if necessary. Fish start on the road this weekend. Goldeyes.com. Get your tickets. The atmosphere has been so much fun through these playoffs, and I imagine we're going to take it to another level next week with a championship on the line. Next Monday, we'll be back at the track. We still have 5 days of live racing at Assiniboia Downs, going all the way to the 24th. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, and then the following Monday and Tuesday to finish up the season. I'm nipping on Remis's heels, but I'm going to need some big performances in those final 5 race days. If you want to make plans to get into that clubhouse dining room for the prime rib buffet, give him a phone call and reserve your table. Today, quick Breezy Bend golf update. We do have a PGA Tour event, and we're kind of just keeping our eyes on the guys that are going to be participating in the President's Cup. Patton Kizzire right now is leading the event, 1 shot up on JJ Spawn. Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes, though, looking good. They are tied for 4th right now at 7 under par, along with my pick to win, Min Woo Lee. 2 weeks away from the President's Cup. Check out yesterday's show. Great interview with Ryan Hart, the executive director of the event, a Winnipeg native, on the scope of the President's Cup coming up in a couple weeks. And, of course, if you're thinking about a great spot for a long-term golfing home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, check out Breezy Bend. You can give him a call at 895-7205. Ask for Corey Johnson. He'll fill you in, or find out more on membership at breezybend.ca. All right, Remo, let's get to the Coolbet lines. But I can tell you all, last call, 4 marbles. We'll wrap that up in just a minute. Man, we've got lots cooking from coming out of today's lock shop. But first of all, let's look at the CFL games. BC, 4.5-point favorites tonight against the Argos. Hamilton, 4-point home dogs against Ottawa. And Montreal, 5.5-point favorites in Calgary tomorrow night. We did put together a little lock shop exclusive for the CFL. BC minus 4.5. The Ticats plus 4.5. Montreal minus 5.5. That's boosted up to plus 575. Well, while we're in the exclusives, we do have our house callers parlay with all of the members of the Lock Shop, myself, Dusty, as well as Pat and Jake, picking a touchdown scorer. It's up at 15-1. Kyron Williams. I took CeeDee Lamb. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had a quiet game last week, and Jaden Daniels, all to score. That's up right now at 15-1. Big games in the National Football League this week. The Raiders, one of the biggest favorites of the week, 8.5 points at home to the Raiders. We've got the Lions laying 7.5 at home to the Buccaneers. Dallas, 6-point favorites at home to the New Orleans Saints. And interesting, the Colts are now down to 2.5-point favorites. Malik Willis is starting for the Packers. Incredible that they had no depth behind Jordan Love. I'm shocked that this guy's getting an opportunity to start an NFL game. That's why the Colts are favored. You can get them minus 118 at minus 2.5 right now. Big games as well. The Vikings, Sammy Darts, taking on the San Francisco 49ers on a short week. Vikings, 5-point home dogs. I actually think the Vikes hang in this game. I'm going to take the Vikings in the points. And then later on in the afternoon, the Bengals and the Chiefs. Big one at Arrowhead. 6-point favorites are the Kansas City Chiefs. And the night game, Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans playing in Houston. Houston, a 6.5-point favorite. They got the Sunday Week 2 specials up for the highest and lowest scoring games, highest and lowest scoring teams. We'll have some rushing and receiving props as well getting in. It's all there at Coolbet. And if you go to the main page, you can also see some of the combo cards, including the DGen Den parlay and our partner parlay as well, which is the Dallas Cowboys minus 5.5, Commanders money line, so the Commanders to beat the Giants, and the Rams plus 1.5 against the Cardinals. That one's boosted up to plus 606. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And don't forget, Tuesday, September 24th is our next Lock Shop EST WST poker tourney over at Coolbet. Click on poker, download the poker app. You can register right now, go into tournaments and search Lock Shop. All right, you know what time it is. It's 3 p.m. on a Friday, and that means we are going to get into marbles. Let's get Michael Remis back in here. Remo, do you have any leans or picks for the NFL slate this weekend that you'd like to drop on the people?
Yeah, Rams plus 1.5. I'm in agreement on that one. A lot of people expecting big fantasy week for Cooper Kupp now that Puka Nacua is out. I actually agreed with all your CFL picks. I did the same thing in the EST. Well, I was very torn. I didn't feel great about taking Hamilton with the points at home, but I did end up writing that one in. I do think BC at home has going to crush. Argos are having a tough time. Yep. Recently, you and Jeff talked about that on CFL 110. NFL, I mean, everyone's just so down on the Packers after the Jordan Love. I mean, it's
Malik Willis. I mean, how do you not have a backup?
Yeah.
This is what I'm afraid happens to the Bombers if Chris Streveler if Zach Caleros gets hurt in the playoffs. That they just don't have a guy behind their number one that can win you a football game. Wouldn't be surprised that they get Ryan Tannehill in, the Packers at least next week, depending on how ugly it is at home in their home opener in a season that started out with so many expectations and so much promise, as long as Jordan Love's behind center.
Yeah, all the receivers, if you had them in fantasy, you're not feeling too great. The total now and very low. The game of the week, Huss, is the Bucs-Lions rematch of playoffs last year, expecting a lot of points scored in that one. And Baker Mayfield, what great success he had in week 1. Looking to replicate that in week 2.
He was slinging it. All right, well, let's get things going. Marbles time here on Winnipeg Sports Talk to finish up the week. And before we get into the today's track, let's get things going with a little Tristan Rivers music to start the festivities here on a Friday afternoon.
It's Friday, another week of work's gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of rye. Phone the whole day in so that you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? Your blind luck to try. It's time to do a marble race. No skill separating best to worst. Marble race. Just say marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't spare will you will suffer all they say. Marble race. Your mark before it's too late. Let's go.
All right, Marbles time. Was that the Foo Fighters version of the Marbles theme, Reem? Was that some sort of a public support from you to Dave Grohl after a very tough week for him?
Public support? No, not public support. But I just was like, oh, what's a topical one? Something we can springboard off a conversation, because you know how much I love playing the theme and then not going to the marble race right away. People love that. So I was like, oh, we can. We didn't really touch on the big rock news of the week. Dave Grohl putting out a press release, I guess you can call it that, saying that he cheated on his wife and had a baby with another woman, the 55-year-old rocker. That was who's made his name as a family man the last couple of years, having his daughter
tough look,
in the
tough
bed.
look,
Very tough.
girl dad.
Very tough look. Wishing him and his family
Well,
all
what's
the best.
an even tougher look? What
Yeah.
is an even tougher look for Mr. Grohl? And I did see a couple people put out tweets. Expect when we find out more about the mother of his child, expect her age to start with a 2. It didn't actually. That was wrong.
Oh,
because it started with a 1.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
Is that out there? That's not out
19.
there. That's not out there. Come on.
Anyways, a very tough look for Dave Grohl, as I said. And the fact that he announced it in the similar fashion to teams announcing that they fired their coach did give us some laughs, I guess, but unfortunate situation for the Grohl family, thinking about everyone affected by Dave's inability to control himself and make good decisions.
I mean, I think he would know better as a 55-year-old guy, but I mean, rock star, grew up, playing in the 80s and 90s. I guess can't take away the rock star behavior now, how old you get. But he got out in front of it, I guess, with a press release. Maybe I don't know. But another guy who got in front of some other sex-related news has Shannon Sharp, went on the Ocho show and owned up to his Instagram Live mishap.
Unk owned the week. I actually thought that was some sort of a publicity stunt for all the other things that Shannon is doing. It's pretty clear that once they started talking about it, it wasn't. But that discourse between he and Chad Johnson on their show about it was like crying funny. I mean, that was one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. He handled it well. He owned it. He moved on. No one was there. It was a consensual event that just unfortunately was put on Instagram Live. I don't know how you do that accidentally. And by the way, right out of the gate, saying that he was hacked was the best and the most predictable thing ever.
Yeah, so if you missed it earlier this week, Shannon Sharp, ESPN NFL analyst, he's got his own show with Chad Ochocinco on YouTube. He live streamed himself having relations with a woman. The phone was down. You couldn't see anything.
Michelle was her name.
Yeah, Michelle was her name. The phone was down. You couldn't see anything, but you could hear a lot of heavy breathing. It could have been working out, but they were not.
Ice up.
There was no butterfly curls in there. And I mean, like 6,000 people were watching it on IG Live, got tweeted out, and I think it was an intern who came out with the hack. I think that's the default.
Yeah.
It clearly was not a hack. He owned up, said no, he deleted that. And I think when you come out and say you were hacked, everyone thinks it's BS. But he said he threw the phone down and it went on IG Live. I'm trying to think of like the logistics of how that would happen.
I've never done an IG Live personally, and Unk said he hadn't either. But everyone's seen his IG Live. And by the way, the best part about that entire thing was the fact that WWE superstar R-Truth was in the live, all up in the comments, doing his play-by-play of the entire situation for anyone that had jumped on the feed.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy thing, and he's not going to have any discipline from ESPN. I mean, he owned up to it on their own stream, so I think he did great PR for that, Shannon Sharpe, and kind of an embarrassing moment for him, and that was about it.
Weekly Stock Watch, Shannon Sharpe, Unk, up, Dave Grohl, way down. And now we move on to the weekend and to the marble race. How many marbles do we have today?
Okay, we have a lot of entries in today. We had 365 people in the stream, and I have 200, and I closed it right after we played that marble race. I think a couple more people came in. We have 224 entries. Isn't that crazy?
That is great. Can you put one in for me? And you know what? Let's give Shannon Sharpe a marble. Shannon Sharpe gets a marble for.
How about I give one to Goldeyes Manager of the Year, Logan Watkins?
Definitely Logan Watkins, Unk, and me. Put me in there as well.
Oh, and Hustler. Okay. I do want to give a shout out to Goldeyes GM Andrew Collier. I saw him on the field celebrating after the big win yesterday. You know, he's been a frequent guest, known him for a while, and I pointed out to my dad. I'm like, Dad, there's Andrew Collier. He's the one hugging Goldie and Goldette. So everyone getting in on the celebration after the big win yesterday.
Yeah, listen, so pumped for everyone there at the Goldeyes office. It has been just a great season so far. And we'll be back at the ballpark next Tuesday for Game 3 of the Championship Series.
Okay, I'm throwing one in for Chris Strevler, too.
Yeah.
Tough injury. He's been a guest on this program as well.
Fan favorite.
100% fan favorite. So wishing him all the best in his recovery from tearing 3 of 4 knee ligaments.
Man, that sucks. All right, where are we going today?
Okay, I did some testing before. Hold on. It's called Friendly Adventurous Balance.
Ooh.
I don't know what that means.
Friendly Adventurous Balance. I mean, I'm always here for the new courses, the new tracks. Especially when the maestro of the marbles is testing them out beforehand. So we've got a good one for the people. And a big race today with over 225 marbles. So this is good stuff. Let me shout out our friends at Schiffman Associates. We'll have some new hoodies in a couple weeks. Appreciate everyone's patience that maybe has won in the last month if we haven't had their size. Hang tight on those. But yeah, a marble for IG Live.
I tried IG living this show once or twice. Didn't really work that well. I didn't get 6,000 people watching. Now we don't have that many followers on IG, but we're on there. Sports Talk WPG. Maybe we'll do some more IG lives in the future.
That could be. All right, well, you get that up and we get ready to go. One thing I did want to mention, I had like the best night last night, going down to the baseball game. Back on the water taxi last night. Shout out to the guys from Winnipeg Waterways who have done such a great job in taking over that service. The tours, I see them all the time coming up and down the river. The tours have been packed, but that ride from the Hugo Dock downtown to the ballpark is the best way you could possibly get to a fish game. And I'm hoping that it's still running next week. We'll maybe pull off the same thing heading down to the game on the weekend. But Winnipeg Waterways, water taxi, unbelievable. I cannot endorse anything more. And if you've never been on the water in the city, you see it from an entirely different perspective. And it'll be the best 15 minutes of your day. That is for sure as well. All right, let's do this. Let's get this track up and drop the marbles.
228 entries into Friendly Adventurous Balance.
Oh, yeah.
And shout out to, I did see Dustin Nielsen in here. First time in the
Dusty. Race. Oh, right on.
What?
I liked your picks, Dusty. We're all on different games this week. But we did come up with a nice little parlay. I'm on the Cowboys, -5.5. Jake and you both love the Rams. And then we threw in your Commanders pick. We just took the money line on that one. That's up at +606. Just jumped on it. Dusty, of course, will have the call tonight for that BC Argos game, which you'll be able to see on TSN. All right, let's do this.
Yeah, 9 p.m. start here. And it's CFL game. We haven't had enough of those this year. I need to stay up late watching CFL. I need to watch Nathan Rourke put up a 50 burger. It's as per tradition. Anyways,
I'm actually pumped that game is late because I'm attending the Brew at the Zoo, which I think goes until 10. So maybe we'll rip across to the Shites or something and catch the second half. All right, here we are, the friendly, adventurous balance. Good luck to Dusty and the EST crew that's in here. Everyone from our WST chat, may the best and fastest marble win. Let's drop the marbles on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Massive Plinko style start here. Very cool. Who's this? Big Booty Daddy, I think, had a nice start there.
What?
Georgie, I think there's a Big Booty Daddy who's in there. All right, who's in first? Oh, Mike Lay, accountant to the Stars. Charlie Horse, Eagle Eyes, with a nice start. Charlie Horse got a little slowed down a little bit. Dennis Maruga, Charlie Horse is in the mix right now. Who's the first one? Snuka? Jimmy Superfly Snuka?
Yeah, Snuka's in there. There's a lot of different ways they can go.
Yeah, many different paths.
Almost too many.
Velveeta, Son of Dork, and Russ Lowen right now looking good. B. Henderson, often a big contender in the marble race. All right, everyone's getting shot up into this funnel. And now we go down into, is that a... Oh no one's been eliminated. Oh, now we're getting a few people eliminated.
This is crazy.
Dan Milburn, Al Broderick.
Oh.
Really? Okay, we're getting some. We've had a advancement. Who is that? Mean Gene Okerlund got shot to the front. We've got 3 marbles in the mix. Gene Okerlund, Cider, and the Power right now up there. Turd Ferguson just got thrown over the top rope. But Mean Gene is in first place right now and is going to be tough to catch. THP Power, though, might have an opportunity unless disaster awaits for Mean Gene Okerlund. No, Gino got past that first one. He's getting held up by these dice, but is now into this cylinder or tunnel first. I think we're getting close to the end. Here comes Gene Okerlund, but wait a second, THP Power is close, but no, Mean Gene, the greatest announcer in professional wrestling history, now adds another accolade to his resume. Winnipeg Sports Talk Marbles champion on a Friday in September here on WST. All right, so Mean Gene wins. THP Power. Let's see how we do for the rest of this top 10 here. D. McCallick, Son of Dirk, Living Being, Amy Weeb, Transcona Logan. What's up, Transcona Logan? Shane Mason, Dia. Whoa, top 10 for Dia. And Eagle Eyes into the top 10. All right, we're going to see what happens here. We're getting some more eliminations. And then the rest of the marbles are joining us. Good course today, though. Good course.
Yeah, that didn't happen when I tested it, that a guy got shot ahead of everyone. But it happens. I thought they were just going to go in the first cup. He went to the far one. So Gene was able to hold on. I thought maybe THP Power would pass him, but not quite.
Very close there at the end. All right, let's go down. You got the top 10 already. S. Eldern 11th, Chuckster Drusman, Sambo Amfanasuk. What's up, Sambo? Spency 5 Sensi with a top 20 performance. Not too bad for the other Spency. Spency with the Y, not our Spency with an IE. Steiner and Tony B. Just roll down, Remo. Let's just go through these and let everyone know where they finished up. See, there's a buddy, Matt Hyman. James Stevenson, nice work, Dream. Pat Rathwell, he's just recovered from the Labor Day trip now. Mike Lay, top 50, not bad, Mike. Great start. Oh, there's Hustler, 52. I'll take it. I will take it. We'll see where the rest of our my opponents are. Tyson Ducharme. There's Shannon Sharp, Unk, with a 78th place. Big week for Shannon Sharp. I see Jeff Coldwell. There's Big Daddy Brent. Darth Skater. There's Amanda. Nice work. 108. Ray. There's a lot of marbles that ended up getting thrown over the top, too.
Yeah, I saw Strevler in there. He was near the end. I didn't see Dusty. I don't know if he needed a lesson on putting
he might be
the command
PST.
in.
That could be. It's quite simple. Exclamation mark marbles. There's Issue Boy Bruce. Hung out with Bruce at the game last night. It was a good time. There's Bozeman. Didn't happen for Shorn today. Victory for Huss. But the big winner of today's race, wrestling icon and legend, Gene Okerlund, with the win over THP Power. What's up for the weekend, Reem?
What is up for the weekend? I don't know, actually. Going to be watching the CFL tonight. Got some kids' activities that are starting up. I'll be driving around to those. I think I'm pretty open here. I'll give a shout out to my brother who had a new baby this week. So
did he really?
Yeah.
Congratulations. Boy or girl?
He's got a girl. We got a boy. Each have a boy and a girl. So exciting. So I hope to visit him.
That's his second? I didn't even.
Yeah, he's got two now.
I didn't even know he had it. I got to catch up here.
We're getting old. I got two kids. Brother's got two kids. Yeah, that's what's going on here, I guess.
Got Brewers at the zoo tonight. 6 o'clock, we'll tune in and watch some of this Prospects game. We'll check out the Goldeyes on the weekend, and then, of course, a full slate of NFL action. Looking forward to making a few more wagers over at Coolbet and seeing the games on the weekend. That Chiefs game is going to be great against the Bengals on Sunday afternoon. I'm looking forward to the night game as well on Sunday. Houston and the Chicago Bears in prime time. That's going to do it for us for another Friday and another week. Big thanks to Hacksaw, Mike McIntyre, and John Hodge. Of course, the maestro of the marbles, Michael Remis, and all of you for hanging out with us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Check out the Lock Shop over at EST if you missed it for all our picks for the weekend. And otherwise, make a point. Monday morning, you'll have new content from Connor with the WST Week in Review, looking ahead to training camp, bye week for the Bombers, but obviously the Goldeyes in the championship series. And join us on Monday, 1 p.m., right after the Lock Shop over at EST for a big episode of Winnipeg Sports Talk coming out of the weekend and the Prospects tournament heading into Jets training camp later on next week. And, of course, a big one in the CFL with the Bombers beginning their home-and-home series with the Edmonton Elks. Thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day, and all of you for making us a part of yours. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.